Hi, it's Jackleen. Happy full moon in Taurus. And the full moon is on Wednesday, November 5th at 5:19 p.m. Pacific. Don't forget to set your clocks ahead if you haven't already. You're probably watching this after that. But I'm recording this on Halloween on Friday evening. Finally got to take a breath. This has been an eventful couple of weeks. I think it's been pretty good, like I predicted. We had this lovely Libra grand trine here in the new moon, and I want to tell you that we continue with this full moon here to have the same configuration. It's a little less defined, but there's definitely more activity going on with this chart. So there's a lot going on, typical of a full moon. So on a full moon, you're going to get more tension. We are spoiling for a Mercury retrograde as well. So I'm just going to let you know that. And by Tuesday, the day before the full moon, we're already in the storm period of that. I'm not a Mercury retrograde alarmist, so I won't tell you to hide beneath your bed covers and don't come out until it's over. But I will tell you to exercise some caution and to know that plans are likely to change. I've already sort of been feeling that, but this full moon is going to give us a little bit of trickery in addition to the Mercury retrograde trickery. So November 9th through 29th is the actual dates of the Mercury retrograde. I'll talk about this a little bit more later because I've got off on a tangent already, but I want to talk about this full moon. But just know that during this 2 weeks following the full moon, which is our time of releasing and letting go of things and clearing, cleaning, all that, right? Completions. We're also going to be visited by the Mercury retrograde. So just know that. But we have that grand trine. Again, grand trine is the best aspect in astrology, bar none, right? Because it's like the trifecta at the races. You've got at least 3 planets participating in a grand trine. In this case, we have more than that. We have 5 planets participating in the grand trine, and that's Mercury and Mars. They are near conjunct within 5 degrees in Sagittarius. Now that Sagittarius is the sign of shooting your mouth off. So just know that is going to happen. And when we get a Mercury retrograde, that is really going to happen, right? So it's going to go retrograde in Sagittarius. And so it's going to kind of be marked with that. And the funny thing about Mercury retrograde, here I go back on that tangent about Mercury retrograde, but while I'm thinking about it, there's almost always one during some of these holidays where we gather with family, right? These holidays that are meant to be celebrated with family, sometimes friend groups, whatever, Friendsgiving, and that's great too. But generally, family is the way we came into this world, but it's not necessarily always, especially for people on the spiritual path, right? Maybe they don't have the same spiritual beliefs as you do. Maybe they don't have the same political beliefs, right? The family of origin, it's where you kind of have your issues, right? And so here we come in from a full moon and into a Mercury retrograde and into these kind of gathering holidays. Thanksgiving being the holiday in question here. The Mercury retrograde storm will take us through December 3rd, maybe a little bit further than that. So that's just the outside period. The storm is the period before and after the Mercury retrograde, where things are a little bit murky. They're not completely murky, but they're a little bit murky. I'm going to come back. I told you I would come back to the Mercury retrograde because I really want to talk about this grand trine. I want to talk about this full moon. Again, we got that ground trine with Mars and Mercury there. Mars and Mercury. Mars being the planet of aggression and doing and, like physical activity. And it being in Sagittarius, fire, and Mercury also being there. You're going to say things. You're going to stick your foot in your mouth, or someone's going to do that, right? So just knowing that there's a possibility of that. I did that a couple Thanksgivings ago, right after I told people not to do it. So it's one of those things that somebody's going to get triggered. Somebody's going to say what they really feel. As long as you know that's there, it's good to know. Good to know. We have, again, Also in this grand trine, Jupiter. So ultimately, it'll turn out okay. Jupiter is the planet of all's well that ends well, right? So we have to trust that there's a reason this came up. Maybe you needed to have that discussion with your sister or your aunt or whoever there was the issue with, right? And perhaps it brings about more healing. The others, speaking of healing, those political, those religious differences, we have over here on the other side, the other little part of that grand trine down here, make sure I'm pointing to the right place, we've got that Mercury and Saturn conjunction, which I'm calling, I'm coining this term, the great decultification, because I do think a lot of people are revisiting beliefs and things that they've been told. It's a time when people begin to kind of wake up and see things more clearly. So however you're oriented and however you want to see that, go ahead and see it that way. But then also be open that you might see it another way. That you might during this time get a sense of what other people are feeling and start to see things a little bit more from their perspective. And that's what this is all about, okay? So the grand trine will bring wonderful things. We've got Pluto very heavily aspected here. Pluto is the planet of power. It's the planet of transformation as well. And so be willing to have your beliefs transformed. Be willing to add new facets to the things that you believe and practice during this time. So, and especially if you're wanting to ask others to do that as well. So you can have debate. It's going to happen anyway. I'm just going to tell you, you might as well put some parameters around it. You might as well be as centered as possible, right? Because, yeah, this is a very active chart there. Not only do we have that grand trine in the middle, but we've got a square, we've got some additional oppositions, because oppositions, the sun and moon, of course, in a full moon are opposed to each other. So just knowing that, that's the basis of tension. We start to feel that a couple days before the full moon, definitely feeling it today, right? So we start to feel that tension as the full moon approaches. It's very different than a new moon. We have this very harmonious new moon for the most part. And as we got a little bit closer to the full moon, yeah, it started to introduce this chart. This is the chart that's going to be active for the next couple of weeks. Strongest around the point of the lunation. Lunation just meaning a full moon or a new moon, the moon doing something basically. So again, we've got the sun and moon obviously in opposition. And I wanted to talk about the Sabian symbols for that, because the book is Dane Rudyard's An Astrological Mandala. And again, the little history of the book is that a medium and astrologer got together and visualized a symbol for every degree of the zodiac. And this one, the Taurus moon, the Sabian symbol is on the beach, children play while shellfish grope at the edge of the water. So it's returning to the simpler joys for realization, for spiritual realization, for, any kind of realization, right? So it's doing things that, are more childlike and simple and fun, and maybe don't cost a lot of money or don't involve a lot of planning. It's spontaneous. It's really a nice, Taurus is the sign of nature. Okay. It's one of my favorite signs because it's very of the senses, right? It's art appreciation. It is appreciating good food. It's cooking, gardening. It's all these wonderful earthy things. Earth Day is one of the most apt holidays for where it falls in the zodiac under a Taurus sun, right? So it's about the environment. It's about taking care of nature. It's about being at one with nature. So love this beautiful, joyful symbol. The other, we have to look, because it's a full moon, we have to look at the opposite symbol, which is that Scorpio sun. The Scorpio sun, telephone linemen work installing new communication. So it's learning to communicate in new ways. And it just, because there's a myriad ways of communicating now in this day and age, right? But maybe some of them are new to you. Maybe you need to master this social media platform, or, you have to branch out a little bit more. Someone suggests something to you. So it's being open. That to me is also expanding the comfort zone. So we've got that opposition as well. Well, over here you're doing things to relax and be one with nature, and you definitely want to have those things over the next 2 weeks to kind of ground you. Go and put your feet in the earth. That's such a Taurus thing to do, and it's, when I say happy Taurus full moon, I mean celebrate it. Go out and do something Taurus like. Go to an art museum, go out for a good meal, put your feet in the earth, do something that really grounds you and centers you. So that's very helpful to do that. In addition to that opposition, we also have the opposition of Uranus, which is the planet of disruption, right? It's also revolution. It's social changes, things like that. It also rules social media, right? And then we've got that opposition to Mars and Mercury. What you say, again, that can be a little bit explosive. So I might, before I post something on social media, I do this anyway for the most part, I might take a few deep breaths and ask myself if I really want to do that, right? Particularly if it's something political, inflammatory, how do I want to post this? What do I have to say about it? Can I put it another way? But on the other side of this, more innovation. Uranus is also innovation. So if you have that great idea, in fact, I would say be meditative now, go for those Einstein walks. Again, that's Taurus energy. Go out into nature and see what comes up, because Uranus is all about ideas, insights, innovation. It's cutting edge technologies, that kind of thing as well. And we have that. I think it has tightened up a little bit. No, it's about, just a little bit. We have that opposition that I talked about last time between Jupiter and Pluto. And so that sometimes, there's a couple of aspects with Jupiter right now, that being one of them, that we may not get the thing we want from doing that bold thing, or we might not get it right away. But we might get what we want in a completely different way. It may come from, especially with the Mercury retrograde happening, from irritation, inconvenience, having to wait, being delayed. But, you just might meet that person that you need to meet while you're having some unbidden delay, or something happened and you had to go with plan B. So always have a plan B over the next couple of weeks. Definitely have your plan B. And just kind of roll with the punches. That's a good rule of thumb anyway, right? But especially during Mercury retrograde, in the 2 weeks following a full moon, and especially right around the full moon, where we're already feeling a little bit of tension right now as I record this. You may get this on Saturday or Sunday, maybe Monday. So you'll have a little bit of time. If you want to launch something, because the new moon and the 2 weeks following the new moon are all about new beginnings, launchings, putting things out into the world, kind of starting projects. If you want to do any more of that, I would say to kind of finish that up by Tuesday, because Wednesday, again, here on the West Coast, it's 5:19 a.m. So you're already asleep, right? Once you wake up, the moon will be full, right? So by Tuesday, which is also the day that Mercury goes into its storm, so then we need to start thinking about completion. What can I get rid of? Taking the clothes that you're no longer wearing to be donated, that kind of thing. Completing projects, things that have already been begun are more successful during this double whammy of a full moon, the 2 weeks following a full moon, and the Mercury retrograde. We've got a little bit of Venus and Jupiter in square. And I always think that Jupiter, the Santa Claus of the zodiac, is never a bad thing, or usually never a bad thing, unless, of course, there's addiction, compulsion, too much of a good thing, right? But generally, it's good. Even though it's a square, which is a difficult aspect, your relationship, if it's meant to be, will probably grow through some of the little fights or disagreements or debates that you have. So you may clear new ground through having a little bit of tension. So embrace the tension, know that it's there. What else do I need to say about this? Jupiter and Pluto are the planets that are most aspected, but we still have these outer planet aspects that are pretty positive. So I feel like, again, I always say that that is unity wanting to happen. How can you create a little bit more unity with someone perhaps that you have different beliefs with than, and that you've had maybe some difficulties in the past, but they're valuable in your life. So that I will kind of reiterate. We talked about that before. Yes, Venus is a bit in the crossfire because there's Pluto here. There may be power struggles in your personal relationships, business relationships, anything that's a partnership. You may jockey for power with someone else, or they may jockey for power with you. And so knowing this, forewarned is forearmed, right? Since you're the one that's watching this, you're probably going to be the one that needs to make the peace because your boss isn't watching this. I always say that, right? So, so you're probably going to be the one that says, okay, take a deep breath, step back a little bit. Full moons are fun. They're very intuitive. Good time to ask yourself questions before you go to sleep. Not a whole lot, maybe one or two, and see what your dreams tell you, see what your intuition tells you. Give it over to your subconscious. Again, that's when Einstein would take his walks. He wouldn't sit there banging his head against the desk because he couldn't figure out the problem. He would go and take a walk, and then maybe an answer would come. So that's a good thing to do around this time, especially when we have all this mental interference with the Mercury retrograde. And speaking of the Mercury retrograde, I said I would talk a little bit more about that. It's the old rule of thumb is if it has the word re in front of it, like repair, research, that kind of stuff, it's good. If you're redoing anything, that fits well with the Mercury retrograde. I say, as I said before, I'm not a Mercury retrograde alarmist. We all have to do things, real life things during this time. We all have to sign things on Patreon and sometimes on Instagram and Facebook. I don't even know if that is a thing anymore because I get one or two likes on that, but I will post some lucky days on a few of those. And if you see those, give me a like, right? And then I'll do more. But I will post some lucky days, lucky times. I post all of them on Patreon just because that's for my paid subscribers, and also a few for just free subscribers as well, just to kind of let you know when it's better to do something. And it's most important during Mercury retrograde. If you get those little lucky times, and some of these lucky times last for 1 hour, some of them last for 4 hours. But you can get a lot done. Some of them last for 6 hours, and some of them are sort of all day. Some of them last a little bit longer than that. So if you can get your own personal lucky days, I do that. If you want to have a session, I can tell you your personal lucky days. Let me know before the session so I can pull that up at the end. But you can use your personal lucky days, or if you just feel great, if you just feel like, I feel lucky right now, you go to the casino, right? And you're centered and you say, this is how much I have to spend, and this is how much I'm not going to spend, right? I'm going to put all my winnings over here and I'm not going to put them back into the pile. I don't know why I'm talking about the casino. I so rarely do that, but just an example of an area in which luck can happen. Other things like putting out your resume, for example. You're feeling good, get yourself centered. This is my rule of thumb for lucky days, but you can use them whether or not you know it's a lucky day. Get centered, know exactly what you want to achieve. Have a bit of a plan B, know that opportunities may even come in and make something else look a little bit more attractive. And that could be a bright, shiny object, or that could be a real thing. So tune into your intuition and know that. Take a look at, where's this coming from? Is this trying to get me off the goal, or is it going to add to it, or is this a better option? So it's a couple of things that I wanted to say there. I think in general, this is a very positive full moon. I think we're going to have a few crazy things happen, but who hasn't seen crazy things happen right in the news over the last, 10 years, over the last year especially. So we're going to have a little bit more of that. Full moon always stirs it up. Look back to what are the things that you wanted to create around the eclipse time period, or the things that you kind of struggled with around the eclipse. What's coming up around that now? How do you feel about some of the things that happened and kind of rocked your boat a month ago, 2 months ago? So that's just something I want to leave you with. But in general, I think this is very positive. It's like a party. Think of it like this. It's a raging party. Everyone's interacting, okay? Some of them are interacting a bit more nicely than others, right? We had a nice kind of cocktail party a couple of weeks ago. It was just a nice, well-defined grand trine. One opposition, but it wasn't that bad. And then we had just nice sextiles. Now we've got some squares. We've got the sextiles. We've got all the aspects have shown up. Okay, so take a deep breath, meditate, center yourself, know what you want to achieve, and go about it joyfully. Happy Taurus full moon, and I will talk to you soon. All right.